Good evening, Ian. This week, koans. Mumonkan, number 16. Just lost my page again. Number 16 of 48, I believe. So we've got a little way to go. So I'll do what I normally do. I'll read the koan and the commentary and the poem. Maybe crack a couple of jokes, and then I'll read it again more slowly with some commentary, and then we'll talk about it. So the koan this week is very short. Umon said, "Look, this world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your priest robe at the sound of the bell?" That's it. The commentary. Now, in studying Zen and disciplining oneself in Zen, one must strictly avoid following sounds and clinging to forms. Even though one may be enlightened by hearing a sound or have one's mind clarified by seeing a form, this is just a matter of course. There's nothing to talk about either if a Zen man is able to master sounds and control forms and thus can clearly see the reality of everything and is wonderfully free in everything she does. Though it may be so, you tell me, does the sound come to your ear or does your ear go to the sound? Even if you are able to transcend both sound and silence, how do you speak of that fact? If you listen with your ear, you cannot truly get it. When you hear with your eye, then you can really get it. The poem. If you understand it, all things are one. If you do not, they are different and separate. If you do not understand it, all things are one. If you do, they are different and separate. So I'll go back over it again and talk a little bit about it as I do, and then we will discuss this among ourselves. So Umon, in Chinese, Yunmen, he was the patriarch of one of the 5 schools of Zen of Chan in China, and he shows up a lot in these commentaries and in all these collections. What do they call the transmission of the lamp? I think it is. These are where all the monks would write down the little comments of the abbots on their sleeves, and then it'll be collected in books. The collection of his quotes is just delightful. He's just a beautiful human being. He said, "Look, this world is vast and wide. Vast and wide. This is the direct experience of emptiness," he's pointed out. This is, emptiness is not a thing. Emptiness is a way of experiencing reality. Experience isn't quite right because there's nobody to experience. But emptiness is what it feels like when there's no me there and there's just stuff arising. There's just sounds, there's just sights. It's what it's like when things aren't crystallizing as things. That's what he's pointing at. This world is just vast and wide. From that perspective, there are no barriers, there's no boundaries. It's like when I was a kid, T.H. White, it's a story of King Arthur. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's a story.
What's a teacher?
T.H. White, look up T.H. White, and it's his version of King Arthur. And in that, Merlin allows King Arthur, as their young man Arthur, to become a hawk. So Arthur's flying over the sky. He says, "Wow, from up here, there are no barriers." That's what it's like. This world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your priest's robe at the sound of the bell? You're free. Why do you do this stuff? There's a story of an abbot, two young monks. The abbot sees the two monks lighting incense and doing prostrations. And he goes in there with the broom. He sweeps them and says, "Stop all this nonsense, get out of here." And they're confused. And they're even more confused when a few days later they see the abbot in there lighting incense and doing prostrations. And they say, "Master, what's going on? Why are you doing this?" He said, "This is just the way I practice my devotion." And there's a profound difference between what he saw those young people doing and what he was doing himself. This was just how this exists in the world. And the two monks were, in Zen it's called, following the forms. They were just doing the acts. So why do we put on our robe? If it's just following the forms, we wouldn't do it. Why do we put on our robe? Why is the question? Why is the heart of this? Many of these koans, they're reduced down to just one word. There's a first off, there's the contradiction in these. So the contradiction is, there's the choice of putting on your robes and not putting on your robes. And they're both legitimate choices. What is right? You can't hold both, you've got to choose. And the why is the heart of this. Now in studying, so we're now in the commentary, now in studying Zen and disciplining oneself in Zen, one must strictly avoid following sounds, clinging to forms. That's what I was just talking about. It's about, they're talking about Zen, and the language here is very Zen, but it's, the principle is very much pervading throughout all forms of Buddhism. Strictly avoid following sounds and clinging to forms. Stop clinging, let go. And we can feel ourselves clinging. If we're paying attention, we can notice the tightening around clinging, and it's about letting go. We strictly avoid anything that feels like clinging. Even though one may be enlightened by hearing a sound or having one's mind clarified by seeing a form, and there's stories around that. There's one Zen practitioner who famously had his awakening when he was sweeping stones away, and a stone hit a bamboo stalk, and just that sound just shattered. I've had experiences with sound. Somebody rang a bell when I was at a retreat one time, and that just knocked the bottom out, and that had a profound effect on me. So hearing a sound or having one's mind clarified by seeing form. There's one story of among seeing peach blossoms. And you can, if you see on a spring morning in the breeze, you see pansies and they're just shimmering, or daylilies. They're one day existence. They're just beautiful, but they're beautiful because of their impermanence. So that can just be, that can be an enlightening moment. But this is just a matter of course. This is just what happens. It's nothing to talk about either. We'll get on to there's nothing to talk about either. How do you talk about it? There is nothing to talk about, and there's no way of talking about it. If a Zen person is able to master sounds and control forms, and thus can clearly see the reality of everything, and is one. I think there's a missing word there. The person is wonderfully free in everything they do. What does that mean? It's about being wonderfully free. Our practice is all about being wonderfully free. And the truth is there's nobody who is free, because if there's somebody free, we're holding on to somebody. There's just freedom. To master sounds and to control forms is to not be mastered by sound and not be mastered by forms, to not be controlled by them. If we hold on to them, then actually they're controlling us. Our possessions aren't things we control, our possessions control us. It's an old trope, but it's very true, and that's what this is pointing at. And it's pointing at every realm of sense experience, every thought, everything we touch, everything we see. If we allow that to come in and guide us, we are its prisoner. So controlling it is simply recognizing it. There's a sutra in the Pali Canon, which is one of my favorites, Bahia, so out of the Udana. And this is the one where Bahia is a serious practitioner. He's had profound insight and experience, and he thinks he's maybe about there, maybe he's enlightened. And someone, and maybe a dewa, somebody whispers in his ear and says, Bahia, you're not enlightened, and you're not even on a path where you're going to be enlightened. You need to go see this guy in northern India that's like 1,000 miles away. You need to go visit him. He'll put you straight. So Bahia treks all the way across India. Buddha's out begging, so Bahia asks him for instruction, and you don't ask the Buddha when he's begging, because he's begging for his food. He does it once a day. So Buddha says, later. Asks again, asks a third time. The third ask, you've got to answer. That's just the rule. So Buddha's, okay. So here's the deal. When there's hearing, there is just hearing. When there's seeing, there is just seeing. When there's sensing, there's just sensing. And with this, when there is seeing, there is no you there. You're not in this. And if you're not in this, you're not here, you're not there, and you're not in between. Just this is the end of dukkha. And if you think about it, what he's describing there is being completely free from all sensory experience. Completely free. That's freedom. That's liberation. That's what we're talking about here. And that's this wonderfully free in everything he does. If able to master sounds and control forms, and can thus clearly see the reality of everything. The reality of everything is it's just a sound. It's just hearing, it's just seeing. Zazen is just sitting. It's just sitting. Profoundly misunderstood by a lot of people. It's just sitting, that's it. Though it may be so, you tell me, does the sound come to your ear, or does your ear go to the sound? There's the three, right? There's the subject, the object, and the consciousness between the two. Does the sound come from the object to the subject, the ear, or does the ear go the other way? Does the hearing go the other way? What's really going on here? The truth is, there is no separation, right? When you've been sitting a long while and your legs hurt, where is the pain? Is it in your leg? Is it in your mind? Is it in between? You can't really find it. What's going on there? And when I say, that there's no separation between the ear and where the sounds come from, the object. There's no separation doesn't mean we've got this mushy splodge where there's nothing there. There's, there's more than that. Even though you're able to transcend both sound and silence, how do you speak of that fact? That's the challenge of the koan. The koan is asking you, why? Why? You've got to speak. The way you answer the koan is you present your solution to the master. How do you present it? What do you say? Saying can be an action, right? How do you present? How do you live this? How do you live this? It's not just the waking up to by hearing, it's not just being enlightened by hearing a sound or having one's mind clarified by seeing a form, it's then living that, expressing that vibrantly in life. If you listen with your ear, you cannot truly get it. When you hear with your eye, then you can really get it. Actually, a lovely quote by Bottom in Midsummer Night's Dream, which is very similar to this, which I love. What does that mean? Hearing with your eyes, seeing with your ear. It's a way of describing whole body experience. Pass things out. We fragment things, but that's not the way the world works. When you're in one of these deep samadhi states, when you have one of these enlightenment experiences, you hear with the whole body. You see with the whole body. The world is not assembled the way we think it is. And you don't, and the seeing is different. Cushions are different, books are different, things are just different. There's a way of experiencing the world which is just more holistic, and it happens when we really settle down. We settle down into these direct, intuitive connections through our senses, which are just much bigger than we think they are. So, the poem. If you understand it, all things are one. If you do not, they are different and separate. Well, that's obvious, right? When you wake up, you get the kumbaya, everything's together, all things are one, there's no separation. Easy. If you do not understand it, all things are one. If you do, they're different and separate. Oh. So if I get it, they're different and separate. That doesn't make sense. There is another one of these Zen sayings. In the beginning, a mountain is a mountain and a river is a river. After you've been practicing for a while, mountains are no longer mountains and rivers are no longer rivers. And when you've been practicing for a long while, once again, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. They're just not the same mountains and they're not the same rivers. The mountains walk. The rivers sing songs. There's another thing that's practiced in the Zen tradition. The monks, they're down in the monastery and they have the kenshos, satori's, and enlightenment experiences, and wow, this is amazing. The attitude, okay, good. Now go up to the hermitage at the top of the hill up there, and once you've got the use of it, then come back down. Which is, what do you do with this in the world? There was I should know who this is, and I could probably figure it out, but there's I'm pretty sure she was Australian, and she had one of these profound awakening experiences. And she just sat there. She was in a public space, and she just sat there for days. And after a while she said, I think it wants a cup of tea now. So the monk being sent up the hill to live in the hermitage, he had what they called Zen sickness, lost in emptiness, just kind of blissed out or stuck in the space where everything is one. And yes, it is one. And within that oneness, there is separateness. You've got to keep going and come back to where there's separateness again, only it's a different kind of separateness. It's a separateness that comes out of the oneness. Why do you put on your priest's robe at the sound of the bell?